Japanese people of Reddit. What are some things people should know to do and not do before visiting Japan? Sumimasen. Learn that word. Start every single sentence with it. It means sorry, excuse me. Use it when asking for directions. As another way to say thank you. When entering a new place. If there is one word you need to learn, it's sumimasen. Unless it's a social event, most Japanese keep to themselves out of respect for others and don't litter. So true. People don't talk to strangers unless they have to. I live in Tokyo, and if someone tries to get my attention, it is one of three things. 1. They are trying to sell me something. 2. Asking strangers out. 3. They are asking for directions. Smiling at strangers is very odd here, and it will make you look suspicious. I saw some white dude at Shibuya crossing flaunting his headband with kamikaze written on it. Yeah, that. Always ask what the kanji means before buying stuff with kanji on it. My Japanese teacher had a list of the worst kanji tattoos she'd ever seen. It was pretty hilarious. She said she stopped saying anything to people because either they'd become very upset or try to weirdly double down and act like she was the one who didn't know what it meant. Carry cash. They'll take cards, but it's unusual and I've gotten looks for it. You can access international at the moment at 7-Eleven and the post offices. Just be polite. It gets you a long way, even if you don't know the language well. If you're gracious, it gets you a long way. This is the most surprising to me. I live in New Zealand where everywhere accepts electronic payments, not always credit cards, but always the local national bank cards. It's weird hearing that a country so far ahead technologically doesn't use electronic payments almost exclusively. I'm not Japanese, but I've lived in Japan the majority of my life. Live in a Japanese household and work only with Japanese people. 1. Don't worry about eating and walking. It says this is bad in guidebooks, but nobody cares. 2. Do not talk loudly on the train. This is probably the thing that annoys Japanese people more than anything. In the train, you can talk, but for God's sake, don't speak loudly. To add to that, you are probably speaking louder than you think. Speaking loudly on the train isn't shouting. Speaking your normal volume is probably loud for the train. Speak at the volume you would speak at a museum. In sit-down restaurants, waitstaff don't wait on you like in the US. If you want more tea or whatever, you'll have to flag them down. Well, maybe not so much in touristy restaurants. When standing on the escalator in Tokyo, stand on the left. When standing on the escalator in Osaka, stand on the right. No tipping. No public trash cans. Edit. It's not literally that there's no public trash cans, but they can be few and far between. When on public transit, keep quiet and no eating. There's generally no eating drinking on the streets when you're walking around, which is partly why there's no public trash cans. Don't close taxi doors by yourself. It's automatic, and they'll yell at you. If you're looking for cheap-ish food, the basements of department stores have decent food courts. 7-Elevens are nice. Many places are cash only. I highly recommend getting a Suica card or iCoca card, depending when you're going. For public transportation, they work almost everywhere all over the country, and they are good for 10 years after last use. So you can hang on to it if you plan to go back in the next decade. Offer your seat to an elderly person or pregnant woman while on public transit. A common place to buy event tickets. Disneyland concerts. Not sure about sports events though is at convenience stores. Outside shoes. Stay outside the house. If you have a tattoo, an onsen may deny you admission. Edit. Onsen hot springs. Have fun and enjoy your trip. Yes. Only thing I would say differently. Sometimes when you offer your seat they try to reject and don't want to be a bother. Instead I started just standing up and clearing the seat. Then they can sit there without feeling bad. Usually they say thank you. Just keep repeating dozo dozo. They'll yield and the elderly will usually become friendlier towards you. Everyone was very nice and plenty of folks speak English. But I always felt like people warmed up even more because I took the time to learn literally 10 words of Japanese. A little effort goes a long way. Hello. Goodbye. Thank you very much. Where is? Check please. 1 through 10. Etc. Also, I saved a ton of money by eating breakfasts at 7-Eleven. Best travel advice I was ever given was by my dad. He used to travel internationally a ton for work, and his 2 top tips were: 1. With the language. Learn the absolute basics and get your pointing and fingers for numbers game down pat. If you make an effort, people will be far more likely to help you out. 2. Always have a credit card with a high enough limit that you can walk into the airport and say, "Take me the duck home right now." Shit happens in life and you may need to do this. Don't get stuck. Good tips. Don't dress as your favorite anime character. I have seen tourists dressed as Naruto characters visiting shrines. The looks people give you for that. Obligatory not Japanese. Lived here for the majority of my life. However, if there's one thing to do in Japan, just be quiet. Pretend you're in a museum. You don't have to yell on the train. It also helps to have situational awareness. If you can avoid blocking the street aisle, you're already doing better than 90% of tourists and Japanese combined. Don't touch everything in shops, especially grocery stores. If you rent a bicycle or something, don't be an idiot on it. I don't recommend renting a bike if you're not from a bike-friendly place. Before you do something, ask yourself, would a mainland Chinese tourist or Logan Paul do this? If the answer is yes, don't do it. Not Japanese, but went there a few years back and got a few tips from a family friend who was born and raised in Tokyo. There are a lot of vending machines. You are expected to consume whatever you buy and dispose of the can bag in the same place. Usually a small trash can for that purpose. Seats are damn hard to find at the busy spots. Most restaurants have either picture menus or little plastic versions of the food, so ordering is easy. If you eat at a place with a chef sushi, yakitori, etc., compliment the chef. Some don't have set prices, so lavish praise may lower your bill, and it is just plain fun. When looking for sushi near the fish market, just look for the place with the line out the door. Doesn't matter which one, but the one with the line of locals is going to be the best. A few observations from being there. Seats are rare to find. If you need to sit for a few minutes, look for an American fast food chain. You can get a drink, clear your head, and sit for a few minutes. People are amazing. We had one guy cross 6 lanes of traffic to help direct us to the Tokyo Museum. We had another get off a train and walk us through the right connections to get us to the bullet train we booked to Kyoto. As in, he rode 20 or 30 minutes out of his way just to make sure we got there. Old people are grumpy as hell. They were like Florida retirees whose favorite buffet closed down. The contrast with everyone else being so very nice made this particularly entertaining. Ask before taking people's pictures. This is true everywhere, but people seemed particularly sensitive to this in Tokyo and Kyoto. You can just hold up the camera and smile and ask the question with facial expressions. No need to learn the Japanese phrase. Almost everyone was fine with it, but a few refused. Don't take anything too seriously. Set out every day to get lost, to embarrass yourself with a local, to buy something silly, and to eat something of unknown origin. You will have much better stories memorized that way. There are a lot of vending machines. This is what really surprised me when we went. The vending machines are literally everywhere. We went up a shrine path to the top of a mountain that was so long we saw the rest of the trip, and the entire way along the path there were vending machines. And they have the option for heated drinks for when it gets cold, or you just want a warm drink. Warm royal milk tea is literally the greatest thing ever. Also, I'm a super picky eater, but I ate everything that came my way in Japan. By far some of the best food I've ever had. Even this weird jelly with beans and shrimp in it. Dunno. Ate at a ryokan and had no idea what 50% of the food even was while consuming it. But gosh darn was it good. If you end up in one of the clubs in Roppongi, go with people you trust. There's a high chance someone might spike your drink. Elaborate. Some clubs bars in the Roppongi area hire touts to get foreigners into their premises. The touts are usually of African descent. There had been many cases where the foreigners' drinks get spiked and they will be dazed or even pass out. These people are robbed or even sexually assaulted when in that state. I think the US Embassy posted a warning on its website a couple of years back. Heck, there's even a sign of caution in the Roppongi metro station to warn patrons of such activity. White person living in Kyoto, etc., etc. Please don't take pictures of the Mako without permission. You can always ask Shashin-Q to say, if they don't seem to be in a hurry. Please don't bother the Mako when they are in a hurry. Please don't grab the Mako. There was a disappointing rash of this in the last few years. One poor girl had her kimono torn. Mako are usually very young women, and it's appalling what some people will do. Mako are a type of geisha, and can be seen in Japan. They are usually apprentices. Lot of people don't realize their kimono cost as much as a small car, and they have to buy a lot of them. Second-hand kimono are cheap, but brand new ones sink wallets. And for good reason. I'd be very pissed off if I spent all that money on a hand-painted, hand-dyed and hand-embroidered full silk outfit, only for someone to tear the sleeve or spill something on it. They're artists, probably on the way to a lesson or party, and if you've stopped and had a chat with a Mako, likely she's just someone in dress apprehension, which is an activity you can pay for. Actually, I remember a place called Studio Shiki in Kyoto being said to be the best at this. If you want somewhere less touristy than Japan, there's Pontocho and Kamisha Chicken, where geisha also live and work, but they are quieter. All three areas put on dances annually, which you can go and see. The Japan Adori is pretty similar year after year, but the others change around. Pontocho's style of dance is more linked to kabuki than Japan's, which is seen as more traditional. Bring or buy a blank notebook. There are plenty of souvenir stamps at attractions, train stations to collect, usually near the exit. It's great fun and lovely memento to have. Google Stamp Rally for more info. Stamp Rally. Most stations have their unique stamp design. Edit if you're really serious. Bring your own ink stamp pad, black or blue, since some stations' ink pads dry out due to people not putting the cover back on after use. Don't film a dead body in the suicide forest. If you're going to Tokyo, then learn about the rail lines in advance. There are 2 main rail companies and you can get to some destinations in several ways. In addition to that, make sure you check what time the train leaves from the airport. Last time I was in Japan, I rushed from customs to the luggage pickup and then rushed to the Narita Express and just got there in time, saving an hour wait. The last thing you want after a long trip is to wait an hour for a train that takes another hour to get to Tokyo. Not 100% Japanese, but 25% Japanese blah blah. But living in Japan, there will be some people who will compliment on your chopstick using ability and be like, sugoi northeast. Hashi wa jiaozu desu northeast. Wow, you're good at using chopsticks. Don't get offended if you hear this. Even if you've been using chopsticks ever since you were a 0-year child. Some little Japanese people have never seen a foreigner person ever seen a Japanese person use chopsticks. Instead of getting offended at that statement, use it as a starting point. Start a conversation to bridge a gap formed from ignorance and develop a relationship. You might create a friend and a karaoke partner. I'm an American but stay out of the fish markets in Osaka or Tokyo, not sure which. Was drunk and long time ago at 2 AM, unless you're specifically supposed to be there. Edit, I keep getting asked why. My friend was really into fishing, so we went to one. He was drunk, but not the shit-faced drunk. I had beer drink, but it had been long enough that it mostly wore off. Anyways, we were on the outskirts of it, and it was cool to see all of it and no one stopped us, so we walked in further. The workers were pretty nice to us. Eventually a cop came out of nowhere screaming at us and telling us to put our hands on our heads. Then he told us to sit on the ground and not move while he went to get backup or something. We didn't want to get arrested. A worker from there saw this all happen and told us to get on his trolley and he'd drive us out. We obliged. But at the same time we were hiding from cops as we drove our way through this labyrinth of seafood in the dark with unintelligible conversations and shouts. Not Japanese, but been here for 6 years. 1 drink anywhere, but nuisance nowhere. 2 non-Japanese are representatives of all foreigners. 1 Logan Paul destroys the work of 1000 Matthew Chosiks. 3 police make people disappear for weeks at a time, 99% conviction rate. Don't be a criminal. 4 Arigato gozaimasu and sumimasen. 5 Just because the women beautiful doesn't mean you can hit on them at their day job. Train commute, standard public scenario. Too many people come here Get trashed and ask me flirting dialogue only. Leave your hormones with customs and 6. Speak Japanese like you're genuinely interested in communicating. Grammar and vocabulary mistakes are only held against legit business and residents of Japan. They appreciate a tourist with more than a smattering. With these in mind, you'll have a rewarding experience. Enjoy the country. Don't play Pokemon in the street. Just be aware of your surroundings. Though most places have announcements asking you not to stop in the middle of an aisle with your phone. It's just common sense. If you don't want to be hit by a bike or bus, don't stop somewhere you might have that happen.